Hello friends and welcome back. I'm Enterprise Architecture. We are back here playing more Liminal Industries. Now this is once again an in-between episode. While Geek is off doing other things, I'm doing a little bit more automation creation so that we can play through this when he and I get back together and make some more progress. But before we dive into that, I did want to of course mention that we do still have the Minecraft community server up and running and you all are welcome to join. It's absolutely free to join. You can click the link below to our Discord and get all of the details of how to play online with us. We are playing all the mods 10 with a bunch of our friends. I think we are up to 15 people on the server now, and it is just a grand old time. We're having a good time, having some adventures and going caving and fighting monsters and doing all sorts of good stuff together. So you definitely should check out my other series that I've got going where I show some of the things that I've been doing on that server. But really, to catch all of the action, you really have to play it for yourself. So please join us there. Now, if you want all the details for that, click the link below, and that'll take you to our Discord, and of course, it tells you about our server and everything else that we've got going on. Now, with no further ado, let's dive right in. So first things first, literally moments after the last episode that Geek and I recorded, we actually finished the automation of monoglass. We got all of this set up. So we've got a packager up there and a frog port that's going to drop glass from our system into this monopool that gets filtered and then turned into monoglass, and then that goes back onto our network here. So this package frog port, we're going to call this monoglass. I don't know why this is not named, but let's do that. There we go. Okay, great. So this should be on the system. If we grab up our wrench, yeah, you can see that connects to that chain. Now with monoglass in hand, we are now able to automate everything that we need to make heavy engineering blocks. We still need one more thing to be able to make light engineering blocks. I'll talk about that when we get a little further along here. But for now, heavy engineering blocks are going to be the task for the day. We need a heavy engineering frame. That means we're going to need at least a bare minimum of 7 crafters to be able to make that and some covers for that. Because yeah, we need this pattern and that has gaps in it. So that's the first piece. We are going to need a couple of deployers to make our soul fuses. And also we're going to need 2 more crafters to be able to make our empty fuse. We are going to need to make gold nuggets. And to do that, I believe we're going to need yet another crafter. Yeah, so that means, what are we up to? 6 now. And then on top of that, electronic components are done. Electron tubes will need to be crafted. So that's 2 more of those. We're going to need polished rose quartz. This is going to be a bit of a problem because we don't have our enrichment chambers yet. So instead, we're just going to have to supply sandpaper over and over again to the deployer. I'm going to make up a bunch of that. That should be easy enough for us to make like a boatload of sandpaper and just keep dumping it in there. But it is really annoying because we don't have our enrichment chamber yet. All right, there is a bunch of brass. We are going to need to combine that brass with some fiberboard. I think we have a bunch of fiberboard still left over. We do. I think by my count, we do need 11 of these brass casings, bare minimum. But I suspect we're also going to have to make a few other items, including some more mechanical arms. So we may as well do a few extras while we are doing that. Is not how we do that. There we go. Oh, we do have a bunch already. There's 9, so we probably don't need to make that many. We can just make, let's see here, 10, 11, and that should be good enough for now. Always check your inventory when things are starting to get out of hand, friends, because you might find that you have the thing you already needed and you just forgot about it, which happens a lot around here, I'm going to be honest. All right, so the last thing we are going to need is a cover. So let's go ahead and look at these covers. These are crafter slot covers. There you go. We are going to need to make up some brass ingots into nuggets, and then we're going to need 3 of those. So perfectly, we have exactly how many we need. So let's go set this thing up. All right, we like to start with the output. So let's put this on bottom here, just like that. And then we will also add our various crafters on here. Let's do just like this. If you're targeting the side when you put these down, they will connect in the right order, just like that. That's exactly what we want to see here. And now we're just going to add our crafting slot covers on there. And that'll say, don't put any items in those slots. Just put the thing together the way I told you to put it together. Okay, so that should be all of the pieces that we need for that. And that should then insert into here whenever we are done. Let's go ahead and link it up to the system. We're going to do that by putting our packager on there. We are going to connect a frog port to our chain conveyor drives like that. And then last but not least, a stock link will go on the side. All of these are already attuned, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's just call this heavy engineering block. So heavy eng block. There we go. Perfect. Oh, no, this is not that. This is the heavy frame. There we go. Great. Am I absolutely correct in that? That is called a heavy engineering frame. Yes, that's right. All right, so heavy frames come there. So this should put all of this together. Now, the only thing that's missing to make this work is we do need to have a mechanical arm. Do we have any mechanical arms left on us? We do have one mechanical arm. Okay, great. So the mechanical arm is going to be how we get the ingredients into these various slots here. That's going to be pretty simple for us because we can literally just take these and click them as the output, and we just need a spot that that is going to have an input. So for that, we are going to need a packager and we are going to need another deployer. Do I have a deployer handily? Or excuse me, depot. We do have a depot handy. So we can put this, what do you say we put this here? It doesn't matter if things are blocking the slots or not, but what we do need to do is make sure that this can reach all of the things and that we can also power this. So let's bring off this last block. Let's put a cogwheel down. There we go. And now we're going to say, take from here and then insert into each of these 4 locations, just like that. And if I put this here, this is now wired up. It'll pull from here, put into those 4 slots. Now, the only thing that's remaining is I need to put a packager on here, and that should insert into this depot with any luck. And now we give this, not a stock link, but another frog port. And I think we're out of frog ports, but we have been auto crafting those. So let's go grab a frog port from over here. Perfect. Okay. So this will now know how to make up those frames. And we just have to tell it the recipe to make the frames. And that's easy enough. We put 2 factory gauges down there. And now what we need to do is actually go grab some steel up so that we can get this actually rolling. All right, so first things first, let's just make one of these to get this rolling to make sure that it's doing the thing that we want to do. So to power this, we need to bring power over to this setup here. And there's a couple of ways we can do it. I generally find the easiest way is just come straight off of the main line here. But generally speaking, I have a rule that if I'm putting a cog box, a gearbox on these, that I like to make sure that the direction is reversed back to the way it was before we put the gearbox on. That doesn't matter in this case though. So we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to put this here. The reason I generally like to do that is because if you put one in the middle of a system that's already rolling, frequently systems are directional, particularly with like belts and stuff. So you want to make sure everything is going in the right direction. Otherwise you're going to have a bad time. So this is now working. We should be able to put those there. That should put this together. And there we go. We now have a heavy engineering frame. So we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to lock this drawer so that it knows that only heavy engineering frames are allowed to go in there. We are going to put heavy engineering frames. Whoa, what are you doing? That's not right. Well, I guess that is right. It's just very awkward. Somehow that is supposed to work. We will put steel in this one. And now what we have to do is tell it that we need to add a connection to that. So we're going to say 4 pieces of steel make 1 heavy engineering frame. And we're going to call this craft heavy eng frame, just like that. And then over here, we are going to tell this is also called craft heavy eng frame. There we go. That will now accept our pieces of steel, and that will then make our heavy engineering frames. Now we have lots of steel in our system, so we can just start using that. The way to do this here is we are going to set a target amount, and we're going to tell it for right now, we just need 8. We don't need a lot. We just need 8 of those. So with any luck, this should start shooting all the way down this way, steel back over to our system. That's what that package was. And they're going to send package after package of that steel. So all of this is working. All right, and this is already done. We already have 8 of those. So progress has been made. This step is now done. With the frame done, we now need to move on to the next item, which is going to be a soul fuse. So to make the soul fuse, we need to do a 2-step process. First, we need to make an empty fuse here, just like this. And I believe this should be, I believe this is the only use for this soul fuse. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. We could use our Soulfire wand and use that to actually make a soul fuse by enchanting there, but I want to do bulk haunting because we haven't done this yet. So we do have access to bulk haunting now because I can turn sand into soul sand. And then we take our sand over here to our atomic reconstructor, which I prefer to call the atomic discombobulator, and this should turn it into soul sand. There we go. And now we can do bulk haunting. This goes here, and then we put this right here, and we lock that up. There we go. So let's go ahead and put down our depot there, not there. Okay. And we are going to go ahead and put our ash alloy funnel on the side. Again, also called andesite funnels for those of you who use that. And that's going to put items into here once it has been properly haunted. So to properly haunt this, we are going to need to blow some sort of haunting stuff across this. Now, this is where this gets a little tricky. I prefer to do my haunting where I'm actually blowing things from the top. That will not work in this case. So the only other options for us are to blow from the back here or to blow from the side here. I'm going to do from the back because I think it's going to be easiest to keep things nice and compact, but I don't love it. It's just the way that we are going to be stuck with us here, but you'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's put down our encased fan. There we go. The fan is now backwards. There we go. Now it's correct. And we set up this flint and flint. There we go. And this will now start bulk haunting as soon as we attach a fan to this. So here's where I was mentioning, like, if this is reversed, then it isn't going to go the direction that we want. It doesn't actually matter in this case at all, but it would have reversed this gear if we had done this. And for machines where it matters, that's going to be a problem. All right. So let's come here. I honestly can never remember which way fans have to go to blow properly in this pack. Let's try this. Is that blowing or sucking? That is sucking. That's not what we want. All right. So to fix that, we are going to use our shafts, and then we are going to use a belt instead. That is a lunchbox. There, that'll make it go the right way. And yes, that is now properly haunting. Now, to get items into this, we need to make sure that the output of our setup here goes into this particular square, into the depot. So the easiest way to do that is we are going to grab up some of our hoppers. There we go. We're going to put a wooden hopper right there. And then we're going to do our assembly on the side of this. There we go. So each of these has to get their specific item. When this is crafted, it'll then pop down here into this depot, and that will then start haunting. You can't really see it. It's been blocked now, but trust me, this will indeed work. All right, now we're going to need gold nuggets for this, and I'm going to try an experiment here that I don't know if it'll work or not. So you are coming along for the ride, and we'll see if this works. I am going to make myself up a compacting drawer, just like this. There we go. So this is a 3-tier compacting drawer. If I put the nuggets in the small slot, that means I should be able to get nuggets or gold ingots or gold blocks out of this. Now, I do not know if the frog ports will be able to handle this or not. I've never tried it, and this is going to be an adventure. So let's go over here and see if this works. We're going to swap out our gold drawer that we have here, and you can see we already have 7,000 gold ingots in here. That's because I have a triple system now where we've got 12 different casting tables, each with gold being pumped in here. And of course, we have all of these pool tiles from the other setup slowly melting. So that's going real fast for us. But what I want to try is grabbing this up. Let's see if we can't swap this out for the compacting drawer. Now, we have two ways to know if that worked or not. One, we should be able to come to this here and see that we still have as many ingots as we think we have. Yes, that still says 7,000 ingots over there. I'm going to put this here, here, and this here. Okay. Okay, so if that worked, this should also work. Oh, look, it did. It knows that we have thousands of nuggets now. So here we put our monoglass there. Okay, it knows all about that. We're out of one soul fuse. We'll put that there. We'll put this here, and we're going to put this on here. Okay. So that with a stock link should give us access. It should say, yeah, there we go. It just updated 34 of those. We will attach our frog port, and we will call this soul fuse. Soul fuse. The monoglass has to go on top, and the gold nugget needs to go on bottom. So to do that, we are going to use our brass funnels, just like this. So we are going to tell this that the nugget goes on bottom, and of course that the monoglass goes on top. And that should then work when we want to insert items into it. All right, I moved this to the side because we like to keep things nice and neat and tidy as we have described in the past. We are going to put this down here. And oh, that is wrong. We need it to be at least one block away from that setup because otherwise it's just going to insert whatever comes out of the depot in here, which is not ideal. That's not what we want. So we're going to put this here. And instead, now we're going to tell our mechanical arm that we want to take from here and insert into these slots. Now all we have to do is power the mechanical arm, which should be easy enough. We can put it down here, and now we just have to get power to this, which can probably just run a bunch of these gears, these cogs, all the way through this weird little slot here. Let's just do that. There we go. This is now working for us. And now we just need to tell it that we want a recipe here. So we add this, we add this. One each of those makes one of these. And we're going to call this craft soul fuse, just like that. Perfect. And now we can craft soul fuses. Okay, so we just need to insert into this depot, which we can easily do with another packager. And we can actually just put this right on top. Doesn't matter. And now we put a frog port on that. There we go. And this is now craft soul fuse. Whoop, not 34. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so this should drop items here. This mechanical arm should put them into these slots, and that should just go for us. So let's empty this out first. So we have none in there. There's 0. And we're just going to tell this that we want, let's do 4 for now, just 4. So that should start pulling mana glass all the way from the other end of our base, all the way back down here. I think that's still chunk loaded. All right, so things are coming in. There's the nugget. There's the mana glass. Oh, but you know what we're missing? We're missing rotational speed here. So again, let's just start putting this together for ourselves. And there it goes. That made up those, and it looks like, was that only 1? We should have 4 in there. Oh, it's still bulk haunting. It's just going to take a second for it to finish haunting. There we go. That one's haunted. And now the next one will be haunted, but it can only haunt 1 at a time is, of course, the trade-off here. That's not a big deal, but it is a good thing to know that the haunting setup, if you are using a hopper, is only going to put 1 item on the depot. Now, if we want to do bulk, like 100 at a time, we would put a chute on top and have no depot on the bottom, just a flat block. And this would work just as well. This is working, this is going, that is done, and this is done. So all of those things are now doing what we want them to do. Okay, on to the last piece of the puzzle. We need to make electron tubes, and the electron tubes we need from polished rose quartz and iron sheets. Iron sheets we're already producing. Polished rose quartz we are not. And to make polished rose quartz, we need to do deploying of sandpaper onto a piece of rose quartz to make it polished. So we are going to set up actually a temporary setup here that I know I'm going to replace later with the enrichment chamber in the future when we have access to osmium. Let's go ahead and put this here. We have our depot there. We are going to have an andesite funnel on the side. We're not going to worry about that yet. First things first, we need to put the depot here. We need to put a deployer on top like that. And then this just is going to need some rotational force. So again, we are going to go back to our gearboxes here. Got a gearbox right there. Put this in the spot here. And that will provide our mechanical speed to that. There's our rotational speed. Okay, great. So we'll put a drawer right on top there. We are going to go ahead and lock this drawer just like that. And we need to go make up, I guess, like a stack of sandpaper, maybe 2 stacks of sandpaper. And we'll go ahead and put those in there. Okay, so let's grab 3 stacks of sugarcane. I already got 3 stacks of our sand out of our storage. There's that, and here's this. There we go. And now sandpaper is just combining the 2. Oh, but it doesn't stack. Okay. We can fix that. The problem with non-stacking items is that they become a mess very, very frequently. So what we want to do instead is say, let's go ahead and tell the deployer that this is going to only use sandpaper. We are going to fill this with sandpaper, and then we're going to kind of like slowly make up a bunch of sandpaper that we can then fill in here. Doing this on a crafting table is definitely the better way to do it, by the way, because it keeps all of the items in there. Excuse me, a crafting station. Because once you fill up your inventory, then it doesn't just blonk them out into the world. All right, there we go. This is now going to sand our rubies for it. And now all we have to do is throw a packager on here again, per usual. Now, I did need to step back just one little step here because I forgot that we do need to assemble this, because the actual finished electron tube is made with an iron sheet on the bottom and a polished rose quartz on top. So we want to do this the most efficient way possible here with as few extra materials as we can get away with. So I'm going to use a little hack that we'd used before where we keep a minimum stock in a various container. And that's how we are going to make sure that we always have enough items on hand here. So for instance, we are going to use our packager on this. We are going to use a frog port on that. There we go. Okay, so we have stock links now, and what we're going to do is we're going to do it right on here. We're going to say this should always have a single iron sheet here. And this we're going to call just electron tube. There we go. Okay, so this is craft electron tube. We're going to tell this to always go to craft electron tube, and we're going to save and close. We are going to tell this it should always have 1 at any given time in this hopper. And that means we're always going to have 2, right? We're going to have 1 in the hopper, and we're going to have 1 in this slot. And so that should bring another one over momentarily here. There we go. So that's always going to have 1 in there. And actually, we can get really, really tricksy with this. We can actually tell it 8 because this is only ever going to push 1 into the mechanical crafter at a time. But I think that this will stack. So momentarily this should show up and we should get, yeah, there we go. Now we've got 8. So that's going to have a backlog and there'll always be an iron sheet here. Now this slot is where we want to put in our polished rose quartz. So to get our polished rose quartz up there, we want to go from a depot into this, and we want to give ourselves just like a little bit of room here. So I might actually use a couple of uppers to be able to get that up to that spot. Let's go ahead and put this like right here. There we go. We can put a depot here for polishing, and then we can actually use a brass funnel to filter this. We can say, don't put anything into this unless it is polished. So let's put polished here. There we go. So that's going to polish that up real good for us. We're going to put a hopper on here. We're going to put a deployer on here just like that. And this is how we are going to sand it. And we just talked about this. This is only going to ever have sandpaper in it. Put a sandpaper in the hand just to get us started. And then let's go ahead and put that drawer back that has all of our sandpaper. We're going to put that right onto this thing just like that. So let's climb up there and get this in the spot. There we go. There's our sandpaper just like that. Come back down here. And now all that's left is I just need to put a packager onto this thing. So we're actually going to do it from the back. Or actually, you know what? We don't even need to put this here. We can literally just put the packager right here on it. This will go directly into the depot with no trouble. We put a frog port onto that. Perfect. There's our frog port, and now that is connected. And I know, I think, was it Blackest Dawn that said you could actually connect the frog port directly to the chain? You don't have to put it onto the wheel. That is something that I keep forgetting over and over again. So this one we're going to call Craft Electron, or we're going to call this Craft Rose Quartz, actually. That's what we're going to do there. So Craft Rose Quartz is going to come here. That doesn't match the naming convention that we've used for the rest of this, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem for this. But for now, we're going to do that. And there's a reason for that we're going to get to in the future. That's because I'm going to sort out my logistics here with some of these things that can be auto-crafted using simpler machines like enrichment chambers. We're going to work through all of that in the future. This is all going to get torn out when we have the enrichment chamber anyway. All right, so Craft Rose Quartz over here is going to get that. And then we need to just like set these up real fast. This needs to know that we are going to take rose quartz in, and then we are going to get these electron tubes back out. So let's put one there, put that there. And this is of course missing our packager. This is missing our frog port, which we can attach, look, I'm doing it, to the chain. And we are missing our stock link to tell it how many we have in stock. There we go. That's just like that. Perfect. So this should all then work. We need to tell it we can make these out of those. And that is a 1-to-1 ratio. And as mentioned, we don't need to tell it the iron plate. This will always keep iron plates in the system for us. We don't even need to think about it. Okay, so all of that should then magically start working as soon as we supply rotational power over here, which we do by adding a shaft to this one. There we go. We add a cogwheel on top of that. There's our mechanical cogwheel going. And then we just tell this that we need a certain number in stock. Now, last episode, we started automating our quartz production. And sometimes this actually has been stopping because round robin doesn't always apparently mean round robin, and or things are despawning. I'm not sure which exactly, but we are not going to worry about automating the next step of this process completely because of the fact that it is going to have some bottlenecks for us. Meaning, I want to make rose quartz in the most efficient way possible here, but right now, automating the end-to-end of this is not actually super useful for us because we have all of these pieces that I've just mentioned that are going to get more automated as we go. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to manually make up a bunch of quartz dust and just stick that into our inventory here for now. We're going to come over here to our crystallizer where we had already partially automated the production of redstone acid here. So basically, we're manually producing this by dumping a bunch of redstone into our water here, and that then goes into our tank and gets pumped out. That's how we've been dealing with this so far. But I'm just going to put our quartz dust in the bottom here in a drawer, and that's going to get sucked into our crystallizer, and that's going to get made into our rose quartz for us. And if I just tell this to auto output, there we go, it's going to go into this drawer. And this will then be able to be connected up to our system as soon as we put another one of these chain drives over here. All right, we just need to chain this into the system. There we go, that's chained in, and now our frog port we can attach to this, and I think that'll go right on here with no trouble. There we go. This is going to be called Rose Quartz. Now all we'd have to do is tell it that we want to keep at least one stack of our electron tubes at all times. So eventually some rose quartz should be shot over here. It's going to do one at a time. And that's good because it's going to take a little while to polish and get all that stuff done. So let's just wait here. Wonderful. Okay, so all of that is now automated. Time for the last piece of the puzzle. So the last thing we need to do here is assemble all of those pieces into one block. So our output will be here. When it is done, it's going to go into that slot. Let's go ahead and throw down some shafts here, and we're going to need a length of belt of at least 4 for input and output and all of that. Actually, it's going to be 5 now that I think about it. We need 1 extra slot there for insertion. So we know that the ash alloy funnel is going to go on there, and we know also that we're going to need a belt along there. There we go. That's going to get things turning for us properly here. We are going to need our vertical gearbox to make everything turn. So let's get this set up. And I don't know, again, if this is going to turn in the right direction. It looks like maybe it's turning in the right direction for us. Let's find out. Yeah, that's turning in the right direction. Okay, great. This is going to assemble things for us. Now we need our deployers. 1, 2, 3, just like that. That's going to work fine. So electron tube last. We know that. Okay, great. Then fuse is first. So that goes in that slot. And then we will put all the way over here our electronic component. Grab one of those. We made that 2 or 3 episodes ago. We're going to put that in the middle one. And so let's rotate this. Oop, we're rotating you the wrong way. There we go. Electronic component goes in there. Rotate all of these and we can see that nicely, and we're going to put this back. Okay, and here we're going to see one of those examples of making sure that the rotational speed is put in the right direction here. So this one's going to go this way, this one's also going to go that way, and that makes sure that since we have 2, otherwise it'll reverse the direction each one. This way it's reversing it back to the way that we started, which is what we want. So this goes here, and now a shaft will go right on top of that. There we go. Deployers are now ready for deployonating. Okay, so the only thing left to do here is I do need one more spot to be able to handle our outputs. So we learned previously that the mechanical arm can pick things up from a depot and put them into whatever slot that we need here. It'll pick the correct slot to put those in. All right, so we're gonna use the same trick that we have used in the past here to reduce the need for filters here as much as possible. So we are gonna go ahead and put down our depot there. We are going to go ahead and grab up our mechanical arm here, and we are gonna right click the depot as the source, and these will be the destination from there. There we go, that's gonna go there. And the reason we want it one block up is so that we can just have our cogwheels kind of go over just like this, and that will now get powered. So it's going to pick up whatever's on the depot and put it into these different deployers, which is exactly what we want. For that to work, we need to make sure that this depot is getting the items out of our system. So to do that, we are going to need to use another frog port. Oh, that is just a little too far away. Can we do it from here? That is still just a little too far away. Okay, well, we know the way to fix that, right? And that is to go ahead and put that right on top, just like that. That'll work. Perfect. Package frog port. And this is going to be craft heavy eng frame. Great. So that's going to get the 3 ingredients that we need to be able to put onto our base frame, the bottom of this. All right, we need that chain job just come a little further here. So I think what we're going to do, I'm pretty sure that's going to insert into the right slot there. I'm wondering if there isn't any other way I can get around this. I think this is probably going to be the best way I'm going to be able to do this. Chain to chain. And now this time, this should work flawlessly. We want our frog port to come off that chain right there and onto here. And this is, again, we're going to be doing one where we say this is going to be like stock for heavy eng block. And this is just going to be a stock keeper to make sure that we always have a single one of those heavy frames. And all we're going to do is we're going to put it right on here, and we're going to say at all times, you need to have one of these. So let's tune this. Let's say stock heavy engineering block and always have one. That should bring one all the way over from the system. There we go. It's going to go in here and nothing's going to happen because the deployer has a filter set. Until it is ready to deploy, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to hang out right there waiting for its other items. And you see there's an extra one right there. That's the one that is keeping stock, is this spot right here. So we always will have an extra in the system and this will always be ready to go. All right. So one each of these. Wonderful. And now all we have to do is make sure that this craft heavy eng frame is getting all of the items. Let's go ahead and make a test one real quick, just to make sure all of this works before everything gets all wired up and funky. Give me one of those. And then last but not least, give me one of these. Okay, so ideally, if I put this here, and this here, yes, there we go. Now we have a heavy engineering block. Let's grab that. We put this here. Ooh, that also is funky. Okay. We tell it we need each of these in turn. Great. These will all get sent en masse now. Let's make our wiring pretty. There we go. Wiring is now pretty. That's that recipe. We're going to tell this craft heavy, spell right, heavy eng block. There we go. That's going to match the second frog here. Craft heavy eng frame. Oh, craft heavy eng frame. No. This is craft heavy eng block. We already have a craft heavy eng frame. Okay, wonderful. So that'll work. And now let's just tell it that we want two. So two. Go make another one. And there we go. Things were happening. Things happened. We have two of those now. Let's put our other one back. There's three. Oh, you know what? We do know why. This is going to run on an infinite loop right now because we forgot to hook up our packager with a stock link. So it's going to make a bunch, more than we need, but let's go get a stock link just so that doesn't keep going infinitely, because until it knows that there are any in the system, that will be a problem. There we go. Heavy engineering block hooked up to the system. Let's frog port it. We're going to call this heavy engineering block, heavy eng block. Boom. And that is now done, hooked up to the system. And this will hopefully give up pretty soon here because it'll have all of these. And now it knows that there's 5 in here. At least if we could see through this block, we would know that there are 5 in here. So now we can actually crank this up to a higher number. We're still blocked on quartz right now, but this should start going and start bringing over a bunch more items for us to play with. We might want to increase the stock here, but hopefully this will keep going as it goes through the system. It should get these in order, and we should have no trouble here. And these can hold up to a stack each in them, I think, inside of the deployers, so this should not be a problem. So yeah, rose quartz being the bottleneck, but the rest of this should just get going, and soon we should have at least 32 of those blocks. All right, friends, and there we have it. Heavy engineering blocks completely automated in this pack. Next up will be light engineering blocks once we have all of the things we need to make that automated, and also to optimize some of the pieces of this process that I explained as being annoying. We do have some significant bottlenecks that we do need to clear up, so between episodes, I think I'm going to increase our steel production by, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20-fold, whatever we can do to get those bottlenecks out of the process, because our entire logistics network right now is completely bogged down with charcoal that has nowhere to go. So we're going to work on that as well. But for now, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.